Hello, our lecture for today, the Research Methods course for business students formulating the research design, which is chapter 5, and we depends on the book Research Method for Business Students 7th edition. We expect by the end of this lecture to be able to understand the importance of having thought carefully about your research design and the main aims of your research design, and to be able to explain why these should not be thought of as mutually exclusive, and to consider the implication for adopting different time horizon of your research design. So to start with your research choice, that it should be consistent with your research question and the way in which the data will be collected, and also which type of strategy to be qualitative, quantitative, or multiple methods for that. Moreover, your time horizon, it will be just like a cross-sectional as a snapshot, fixed time, or longitudinal to be cover the period of time. Let's have a look on this research onion as we started in the previous lecture, as we end with data collection. After you decide which philosophy to be like positivism and your approach to be induction or deduction, and then to start, if we choose positivism and to be deductive approach, then we need to collect the data, quantitative data, by survey for an example, and we choose a cross-sectional or longitudinal in order to have the data and to be collected and then analyzed. So, and we, from the previous lectures, that our research philosophies will affect from our beliefs and assumptions that will affect the choice of our research design. The research design should have a clear objective that derived from research questions and the objectives, the aim we want to achieve by conducting this research, and to specify, to allocate the resources that we need to collect the information from this resource, and to consider the constraints and ethical issue during conducting the research. Moreover, valid reason for your choice of the design. So we can choose multiple method or mixed method. We can use multi-method quantitative in the same study, or maybe mixed. When we are talking about mixed, we are choosing a qualitative and a quantitative, while when we are using about multiple, it's from the same type but in different way of collecting quantitative information. So reason for using mixed method, why not just to depend on one way or one technique to collect the data for the triangulation, that to be sure that you get information from more than one source, and to fill the gaps. If there is gaps in your information, it will be complementary also to support if there is some gaps or some deficiency in the information, and also to be able to generalize your finding and to interpret the data and the finding you have find also, and to be able to solve the problem, which is the main aim of the research. So which type of research, the nature of research design, three types that exist: exploratory research, that mainly depends on qualitative data, or descriptive studies, or explanatory studies, which depends also on a quantitative data. Research strategies, it could be experiment, action research, ground theory, survey, ethnography, case study, or archive from the archive research. So for the experiment, the first one, it's even related to the natural science. We need the definition of theoretical hypothesis, selection of sample, appropriate convenient sample representing the population, random allocation of the samples to be representing the population also, introduction of planned intervention, measurement of a small number of dependent variables, and control of all other variables. So let's have a look when we used to say independent variable, dependent variable. So the independent variable that affect the dependent variable may affect directly, have a direct relationship between independent variable and dependent variable, or through the mediator it will have different finding, and moreover may we have moderator variable that affect the relation, but indirectly, moreover, there will be some control variable like the size of the organization, the age of the organization, the financial situation of the organization is different from one company to another. In the experiment, there is a classical experiment, quasi-experiment between subject design and within subject design, and it depends on the experimental group and control group with the time scale for group members assigned at random, dependent variable to be measured according to the cause and effects from independent variables, and intervention of dependent variable, and finally dependent variables to be measured according to the time. So the most important also for a quantitative, for positivism, that to have your survey, and most the survey is depend on the questionnaire to collect a quantitative data, to be collected quantitatively, and then to be analyzed and to be descriptive. Popular in business research, perceived as authoritative, allows collection of quantitative data through the answer from the scale items related to the variable to measure the variable. Data can be analyzed quantitatively using some analysis techniques. Sample need to be representative according to the population, and give the researcher independence also. Structured observation and interviews can be used in addition to the questionnaire for collecting information. But for the archival research, it makes a use of administrative records in the company, in the organization, their documents. It's principal source of data. We focus on our research question to deal with the past changes over time, so it will be considered a primary or secondary data. It should be considered as secondary data because it's collected, or the purpose of this data, not for our research, for other purpose. For the case study, to give us a good understanding of a real life context, use triangulation, multiple source of data for the case study. A case study can be categorized in 4 ways based on 2 dimensions. Look in this matrix. It can have multiple case, one case, double case, a lot of cases in different situation and different context. For the ethnography, from the name, the abbreviation, it deals with the study of the groups of the people in the social world. It involved that the researchers living amongst those whom to study, to observe and talk to them. He is not independent. He is involved in the study. It takes place over an extended time period. For the action research, to solve such problem, to be in action, not just on action, to be involved, the researcher is part of the organization that he is conducting the research regard that organization. promote changes with organization, because something need to be changed, like structuring to deploy some system or whatever. So by time to observe what the changes that will take place in the organization. The role of the researcher also is more easily available. The researchers know the organization, maybe a member of the organization, he's familiar with the organization, and the researcher is likely to their own assumption and preconceptions, and maybe he will play dual rules that require careful negotiation, because maybe he's a member of the organization and he's act as a researcher also. For the grounded theory, and it's related to the induction approach, which is the main aim to build a theory, and the theory according after collecting the data to be verified, to be falsified also. The theory is built through induction and deduction, helps to predict and explain the behavior, developing the theory from the data generated by observation, then to be analyzed, to set a theory will be more verified. So maybe start induction, deduction, abduction, and return back to be induction or deduction also. For the action research spiral, so we see that it repeated more than one time when we start diagnosing the problem to see the symptoms, and we have our plan. We'll take action to solve this problem or this situation, then evaluating, and we'll repeat more and more, like the system development life cycle to reach optimal solution. And we mentioned also for the time horizon, it will be cross-sectional studies, just in fixed time, like snapshot, or longitudinal studies, it will be over period of time. And the most important in our research design, in our finding, some important consideration to focus on to be reliability, consistency of finding if repeated. That if somebody repeat the same experiment or the same survey at the same situation, he will have the same finding. And to be internal validity, external validity. When there is a causal relationship that demonstrated between the two variables or a set of variables. And external validity, that the finding of our study or research can be generalized also. So some threat to the reliability, it will be from the participant or from the researcher himself. So will be some error or some bias from both sides is expected. Moreover, threats to internal validity that affect the credibility of research finding, that past or recent event, an event which changes participant perceptions over time. The impact of testing on participants' view or action by the time. There is some impact from the outside factors, environmental factors, or lack of clarity about cause and effects between these two variables, or the causal relation between these variables. So, moreover, the ethical issue. There is an ethical or ethic committee for the research to get approval from this ethical research committee. The research design should not subject the research population to any embarrassment or harm or other material disadvantage. There is a code of ethics for conducting the research that will cover in this chapter also. For to gain the access to the data you need to collect, the organization maybe give you the approval or the physical approval, or not approve you to collect the information from this organization. When you request the access, Maybe you justify why you are conducting, why you are choosing this organization. Maybe they are not satisfied or interested to give you the physical permission to collect the information. Maybe some sensitive situation, some secret, confidential information, perception about the researcher credibility, maybe some threat from other organization by collecting this information, doubts about the researcher's competences also. Even if you get the physical access to the organization, you can't tell that the participant in your survey or in the interview, they will cooperate with you and give you the correct information. So virtual access may you conduct online through internet, like bulletin board for particular product or service, independent web pages through email lists or multi-user chat room. And you need to take care of the recommended checklist to help gain access from the contact list that you have, to know somebody that can facilitate your access to the organization and your access to the information. Area to be considered also, to be familiar and understand the nature of your target or your targeted organization or companies that you want to collect information about, or the nature of the group that you want to deal with them. Allowing sufficient time for contacting and carrying the research, not to be done in rush, using existing contacts and developing new ones that they can support your access to the organization and to ensure the cooperation of the participant with you during conducting your research. And moreover, to giving a clear account of purpose will allow those you are contacting to be at ease wherever you are in the access process. Area of consideration, according to strategies to gain access to the organization in order to collect the information, overcoming organizational concerns, that to let them be satisfied, to be at ease while you are welcoming to conduct the research and to collect the information. Amount of time or resources involved, sensitivity about the topic, confidentiality and anonymity of organization participant. Some people, they are unwilling to give information. Maybe it's sensitive information or personal information. They are reluctant to provide you or to answer your question. Identifying possible organizational benefits which may help you obtain approval for access. So why you are willing to conduct research, that organization to be involved in this research? What the feedback, what the benefits for this organization? Establishing research credibility will be needed to access cognitive information. As we mentioned, not just physical information, but to be able to collect the amount of data and the type, quality of information that will support your research. Research ethics, the definition, the appropriateness of your behavior in relation to the rights of those who become the subject of or are affected by your work. Issue during data collection, general issues applying to techniques, the way of collecting information, awareness of participants' rights. So the participant have the right to withdraw from participating in your data collection or the questionnaire anytime without revealing any reason. Keeping the project aims, not to go beyond your aims of research, safety of the researcher, and the safety also of the participants in your survey or questionnaire or data collection. Maintaining objectivity, not to be subjective, confidentiality, and the security of the participant and security of the research. Appropriate interview behavior, conducting with the people, observation techniques, undertaking maybe a covert study, not to be revealed the aim or the way of doing this research. And the personal data that you obtained from the participant, from the sample, from the population, it should be processed fairly and lawfully, not to be revealed or to be published without the permission or in any legal way. It's obtained for specific purposes, for your research, not to be used for any other purpose. Adequate and relevant, accurate, updated, and to be kept securely. And to get rid from this information as you finished processing the data. Related issue also, sensitive personal data that related to the employee or the participant in your questionnaire or survey, the confidential protection of research participants, that if you get some negative results or some undesired finding that may unwelcomed for the organization, so maybe the employee will be blamed for that. They will be harmed. So to take some things like this in consideration, ethical use of data analysis and conclusion. So dealing with ethical issues, it's good to have a look in this box checklist also. By this, we conclude our summary. Access and ethics are critical aspects of the research. Access may be physical, cognitive, to get the information. Feasibility is an important determinant. Also, potential ethical issue should be recognized. Ethical concerns can occur throughout the research. Both qualitative and quantitative research have associated ethical issue also. Use of internet, online for data generation. Data protection legislation requires researcher to comply with legal requirements. After that, we assume to be able to start writing our research proposal after we have good introduction to the research method and formulating your research design, how to critically review the literature, and which strategy you need to adopt, the nature of your research. So now I think we have enough information to start writing the research proposal. By this, we conclude our lecture for today. Thank you very much.